Okay, this time I'm gonna explain how Scrivener can be used for plotting out a chapter of a campaign of a role-playing game. So basically, in any campaign, I'll have a folder set up on the corkboard here. So it's just called Test Campaign. This is the test character I created in the database video. We're going to use the test character as the main villain. So I have a campaign overview, which just basically outlines what's going to happen. A nasty villain is going to do some mean stuff, like robbing a bank, framing one of the player's friends. The players will be present during the robbery, but stuff will happen that means they can't stop the villain getting away at this point. Okay, very simple. Great. So, it's a case of I create a file for Dramatis Persona for all of the main characters that they're likely to encounter. So we want test the villain that we created earlier, which is the blank character sheet with entrancement on it. So it's a case of I'll create a Scrivener link. I know that it's in the draft section. There it is. Just to test it. There we go. There's our villain with no stats at all and entrancement. Great. So I'm going to go back to the campaign overview. The villain is test. So, yep, just to confirm, that works. Great. So I now need to decide what's going to happen in the campaign or the chapter. So I'm going to put a plot order. What I did there quite quickly was I right-clicked on the corkboard and I created, it was an add new folder. These are add new text, where it's just a page. A new folder allows you to easily stack lots of documents. So I double click on the folder icon and it's a case of, well, what do we need to happen? Well, new text. We're going to need a bank robbery to happen. So it's a case of, yep, that's great, we're going to have a bank robbery. At the moment, we're just using this to order things out. I'm not going to go into any great details at the moment, and this is not going to be the best piece of writing in the world, even if you choose to use it. So yeah, we have a bank robbery. We know that's going to happen in the game. We know the players are going to be there. But there needs to be a reason for the frame-up. So you're going to need probably some more text to say a prologue. We want something where the players are at a place. Actually, no, let's not do it in that bit, because that's too small. The players are at a place with their friend, and their friend has a bad disagreement with test, or otherwise does something that angers test. This is very simplistic stuff. Obviously, if you're writing a campaign, you have a lot more detail than vague things like that, but it's a case of, this is what I want. We need something in the prologue to actually set up the bank robbery. Now, this is what the purpose of the video. This looks like a corkboard because that's what it is. We know the prologue comes before the bank robbery, so let's move the bank robbery after the prologue. Now, we're going to need probably a scene for searching for clues. This could be at the scene of the crime. So that might be a subtitle in our little text. We might also have word on the street. Obviously, you can tailor this to the skills of your players. Mystical powers, mystical ESP or something like that. And then you can just write in what sort of information players can reasonably expect. Don't be tied to it. Just put in stuff that they can find, and if the players reasonably make a leap of logic that actually makes sense to your plot, then go with it. Never be stuck on your own plot. If the players come up with a good answer that is as good or better than yours, or gets them from A to B just as well, then go with it. Reward the players for showing creativity. So yeah, we're going to have a search for clues scene. Maybe we want to have a scene where tests henchmen. Oh, Okay, so at that point we know we're going to need henchman villains. So we could just create another character sheet similar to this, and then we would hyperlink the henchman to the new character sheet. So at this point, the players are ambushed and have to fight off some baddies. Again, very simplistic stuff. However, you then think, well, actually, you know what? And we have a finale. You then say, right, what, where, how? So how is it going to happen? Where is it going to happen? What's going to happen there? So you would write out what that's going to happen there, and then you think, right, okay, do the players have everything they need to get to the finale? And you realize, actually, they can't reasonably make a leap of logic because of something that's in there. So then you might create another scene. This is very to explain finale clue. So you put that in there. Or it might even just be an addition to the searching for clues part. But the purpose was to show that you can just move stuff around. Well, you wouldn't search for clues before the bank robbery, but you can move things around. You could put the henchman in there. You could possibly even repeat that scene because you just have character sheets for henchmen. So it's a case of, yeah, let's actually duplicate that. Test henchman 1. And suddenly there's an ambush there, an ambush there. I can go in and say, well, this one is later on in the story, so they are better armed. They have guns instead of nails in the end of boards. So, there, what you do then at that point is, let's actually go away from there and click on the test campaign. We now have a campaign overview. It's a case of, we know there's going to be a prologue. Oops. Actually, yes, that's a good thing to note. If you actually start typing something immediately after a hyperlink, it'll create the next one as a hyperlink, and you don't want that. So let's actually just write in prologue again. That's not a hyperlink, and delete that bit. And you know there's going to be a bank robbery, and tests henchmen, and in your overview you can just hyperlink to the various bits of your campaign. So go to the draft, test campaign, plot order, and yeah, prologue. Goes to the prologue. I can then do that for bank robbery. So you always have a reminder in your head of what's actually going on, what the motivation is at the top of your screen, and you can always have the details of what's going on right now in the bottom of your screen. And that's how I use Scrivener for creating chapters and campaigns.